Hello and welcome back to Sullivan County Learn by Doing Outdoor Skills Series. And today we're outside. We're at 4-H Camp Shankitunk in Delancey, New York, where we're going to be filming the rest of this video series. And today, to go along with the equipment that we talked about last week, so if you haven't checked out that video, be sure to go back and take a look at that. We're going to talk about hiking etiquette. So hiking etiquette might sound like there's probably not that much involved in it, but it is really important to keep these key things in mind when you're going hiking. So to start off, of course, even if we have our backpack with us and we have some snacks and stuff like that, if you pack it in, you gotta pack it out. So first hiking etiquette, of course, is to not litter of any kind. That can be very impactful to the wildlife, and even if it's something as simple as like an apple core, if you were to throw that into the woods or leave it on the trail, just keep in mind that that will attract animals to that trail or to that area. They'll be expecting that kind of feeding. So you don't really want to encourage things to hang out by the trail. You don't want them to become dependent on people walking by and dropping stuff for them. So even if it's biodegradable, even if it'll break down in a little while, you should still, if you pack it in, pack it out. We want to be as least impactful on the area that we're hiking in as possible. The only thing you should leave behind is your footprints and nothing more. So make sure that you keep that in mind. You can bring a little separate garbage, like a little mini garbage bag with you, or a little plastic bag to keep your inside of your backpack from being sticky, and then dispose of it correctly later on when you get home. So that's the first thing. The second thing is when you're outside in nature, you're gonna see animals of different types, and you're also gonna run into insects. So like I said in the last video, we're just visiting this area. This is the animals' homes. So put on some bug spray to protect yourself from getting bit, and make sure that you don't impact the wildlife in any way. You're gonna probably see birds, chipmunks, squirrels. Those are the most common things. You might see salamanders. You could see snakes on the trail. You could see wild rabbits. And just make sure you give them plenty of space. Make sure you give them a girth and that you don't interact with them. Now, in New York, we do have 3 venomous snakes. We have 2 different types of rattlesnakes, and that is the timber rattlesnake and the Massasauga rattlesnake, both of which are endangered species and protected. And then the third venomous snake we have is a copperhead, and those get mistaken for milk snakes a lot, and they do not have a rattle. The other 2 rattlesnakes do contain rattles, but the copperhead does not. So make sure you any snake that you see, just treat it like it's a venomous snake. Don't worry about trying to identify it correctly or anything like that. Just give it a nice wide girth. They don't want to be in your presence as much as you don't want them to be in your presence. So just give them a wide girth and then move on. No snake is going to go out of its way to bite you. The only reason why snakes bite is when they feel threatened. And those venomous snakes do like to be in more wooded areas or rocky areas in higher altitudes, so you could see them potentially when you go hiking. I have never seen any of these venomous snakes when I've been out hiking, but you could. They are rare, that's why they're protected. You hardly ever see them. And just for extra information, it is illegal in New York State to capture, contain, hold, move, or kill any kind of snake, whether it's venomous or not. If you're having issues with these snakes in your area, you can definitely call the DEC and have them help you maintain the snakes in your area, in your personal property. But out in nature, this is where they live, so you might see them, you might run into them. Give them a wide girth and move on. So definitely don't impact the wildlife of any kind. You should also leave any plants alone. Don't go picking the plants and such like that. Again, the animals you might see rely on these for shade or camouflage or food sources. So just don't be impactful in the environment around you. Again, the only thing you should leave behind, and the only way that anyone should be able to tell that you were there to begin with, is by your footprints. Don't touch anything else. So other than that, you'll notice on some trails, we're actually at the start of the backpacking trail here at Camp Shankitunk. You'll notice that sometimes the trails pathway that they take might not make a lot of sense to you. If you're going up a hill, or if you're cutting through something, the trail might seem to take you extra steps. It might wind a little bit, or it might seem to take you out of your way to go up to the next area. And make sure you do not ever cut through to make the path shorter. There's a reason why they wind the trails like that. There might be something like a wetland there that they're avoiding and you don't know about, but more likely than not, it's to control erosion of the trail. So when you see these kind of extra looking wandering trails, it's to make sure that the soil and the earth around it stays where it needs to, so that that trail doesn't get too steep later on. If you go off the trail and cut through it, of course there is a chance that you could get lost potentially if the woods gets really thick unexpectedly, but you also want to make sure that you don't ruin that trail, or you don't potentially cause an area where water could go through and destroy the bottom part of the trail. So just make sure the trails are designed that way for a reason, so make sure that you stay on the trails, both for safety and to maintain the trail itself. The other thing you're going to want to look for is, you should never hike in bad weather, but sometimes things catch us by surprise, or it might be windier when you get out there than you thought, or halfway through your hike the wind might pick up. Make sure that you're also looking up periodically, and what you're looking for is something that is affectionately called amongst hikers and people that camp out widow makers, and those are trees themselves, like whole trees, or also large branches that have fallen over and are stuck up on other trees. So they're just kind of hanging there, and it might not take a whole lot to knock them down. That is a widow maker. And they are dangerous because they can very suddenly, if you don't notice them, they can very suddenly fall. So of course we don't want to be underneath them when they fall, and usually you're okay unless the wind picks up, or sometimes you're just in the wrong spot at the wrong time and that branch just lets go. So make sure you're kind of also looking up, not just down, but also up when you're hiking, so that you make yourself aware of that. And if you do tent out anywhere, absolutely make sure that there's no widow makers anywhere near your tent site, because you don't want that to fall on your tent in the middle of the night. Of course, like we talked about last time, it's very important to know your trail. Many trails are marked with a trail marker, unless the path is really obvious and they groom the trail diligently throughout the year, so you can definitely see a wide pathway. Most of the trails around here are going to be marked on the trees, sometimes on rocks, or even just have their own little signs that make sure that you're still on the trail. And those things might be little squares that are marked on the tree, usually in some kind of trail paint, yellow or white or blue, green sometimes. If you're hiking somewhere that has multiple trails, they'll usually color them differently. So one might be a blue square, the other one might be a yellow triangle. Definitely keep in mind which trail you intend to be on, so that you can keep an eye out for these markers. And typically, unless you're in a really wooded area, when you're at one marker, you should be able to see another marker. So if the trail starts to get a little sparse, or you might be getting a little confused, stop at a trail marker and look around you until you find the other trail marker. If you cannot see another trail marker, you might have to go back a little bit to make sure that you're on the correct trail. So definitely know what your trail markers look like when you start hiking and where to look out for them. They're usually a couple of feet off the ground, so that they're easy to see wherever you're standing on the trail. So also still though, even though there's trail markers, hopefully, make sure that you have a map of your area like we discussed in the first video, just in case the trail markers maybe weren't redone, or they might be faded, or the trail isn't really groomed. You can still keep an eye on where you're going. Always have that map as a backup. And of course, remember, safety first. Always let someone outside of your party know where you're going, what trail you're hiking on, and when you expect to be back. So if you follow these simple safety hiking etiquette rules, you'll not only have a fun and safe hike, but you will also help preserve those trails for the next people that want to come, or when you visit it again. If you do happen to find any litter when you're out, it's nice to pick it up and put it in your backpack, kind of help groom the trails. Public trails, of course, it's everyone's responsibility to keep it clean. So don't just walk by litter even if you didn't put it there. It's great to pick it up and do a little environmental stewardship for your local trails. So thank you to 4-H Camp Shankitunk for allowing us to film this video here, and also of course to CCE Delaware County for allowing us to use 4-H Camp Shankitunk as well. And for more information about Sullivan County 4-H, for project ideas, or to see more videos, make sure that you check out Cornell Cooperative Extension Sullivan County Instagram, Facebook page, and YouTube. And also check out the link below for more information about how to join Sullivan County 4-H. And as always, happy hiking.